The Exploration Toolkit features a wide range of different systems that you can choose to use in your games. Now, you can use one of them, two of them, or even all of them. They are modular and you can mix and match them to whatever sort of game you want to create. So here we are in the demo scene where we have all of the different systems laid out. So let's go through and have a look at each of them. We'll start with the player controller, which is a newest addition in the most recent update, which features a kinematic player controller, which is an upgrade on the previous one. So it has movement, running, mouse look, you can crouch, and the crouching, if I go under here, you'll see it actually stops whenever the head hits something as well, which is very nice. So yeah, that is the character or the player controller. We then have pick up objects, which allows the player to look at an object and interact with it. And you can see I also have a crosshair that can dynamically change based on what I'm looking at. So I can pick up an object, have it in my hands. This could be used in puzzle games where you might need to move things around. And I can also place objects in the world. So I can let go and place it like so. But also, if I try and place it inside of another object, it is not going to work. Only if it is with no obstacles will it place down. Now, this is one type of object placement. The other type is via place points, and place points are predefined positions where an object can be placed down. For example, in this chest here, if I pick up a gem and try and place it down, you'll see nothing appears, but if I hover over the box, I can place it down specifically here, and that can then, of course, trigger events. So this could be good for if you want the player to put something down on top of a pressure plate, or if there's a puzzle where they need to arrange things in a specific order. And over here, you can see we have a little chessboard example where we can place objects down. And also with the objects we pick up, we can also use the scroll wheel when placing them down to change their orientation. So you can be very fine in how you adjust their positions. Okay, next up we have inspecting objects, okay? Because in exploration games, horror games, puzzle games, you'll probably want to have a further look at the things the player is interacting with. For example, the player might pick up a key and there could be an engraving on it that they might want to be able to read. So we can click on objects to interact with them. You can see it also has a description down at the bottom. But the interactions are not as simple as this, okay? You could also have it for papers, which is very nice for reading messages as well. But yeah, like I mentioned, these interactions can get more complex. You can have interactions within inspectable objects. For example, let's just say we have this book. Down at the bottom, it says there must be some way to open this. So what we could do is look around. There's a little latch here. You'll see if I hover over it, my mouse cursor changes. And if I click, it can then trigger an interaction. Same thing with this matchbox here. We can open up the matchbox. Maybe there's an item inside that the player can pick up. So yeah, you can kind of layer these inspect items with further interactions for the player to discover. Stuff like puzzle boxes could be a good idea. We then have levers and buttons. These are, of course, switches and buttons which can trigger events. So you might have a light switch, you might have a lever to open a door, little fuse switches you might have if you're creating a horror game, buttons, and this big lever right here. We then have doors, which is probably one of the main highlights of the toolkit, as these are things that most games require. So you can have a door which you can just interact with to open it and close it. This door right here requires a key. You can see my cursor is showing that it's locked and I'm unable to open the door. So if I pick up this key here and interact with the door, it's going to unlock it and allow me to interact with it. This door over here is special because it has a keypad and you'll see the code is 8267. So if I interact with it and go 8267 and hit enter, that is going to unlock and open the door. And yet we can use the exact same door system for things such as boxes where we might want to store items for the player to find. And doors don't always just rotate, they can also move, and this one right here is connected via a lever. So if I pull the lever, that is then going to open the door. And of course we can close it as well. And then over here, doors, not only can they require keys, but they can also have key cards. So right here, you can see I have a door. I'm not able to open it, but if I pick up a key card and then scan it, that is going to open and allow me to open the door like so. And yep, like I mentioned before, the door system is quite versatile. We can use it for doors, portcullises, sliding doors, chests. We can also use it for cupboards and drawers. These all use the same door system. So we can have cupboard doors, which we can open and close, drawers, which we can open and close, and you might even have inspectable items inside the drawers for the player to find. So yeah, And of course, you can lock these doors behind little keypads. So for example, the keypad here is 0000, enter. There we go. It is now open, and we can open it like so. So that's a look at doors. We then also have computers, which is a recent addition in this new update, version 1.2. Essentially, the player can interact with a computer, and you can really customize these to do whatever you want. This computer right here requires a login, so the username for this one is player, and the password is 1234. Now, if I enter the wrong password and try and log in, it'll tell me it's an incorrect password. Enter the right password and hit login, and we are in. So we then have this navigation screen where it can connect to different screens, such as an email messaging service where the player can receive messages. This could be to drive forward the game's story, so you can read a message there. Messages can also have image attachments, so if the a character in the game wants a hint to the player where a certain puzzle or a certain thing might be, they can send a cryptic message and an image. We also have security cameras, which we can observe inside of the computer. And these cameras, if we look over there, so we've got a security camera panning back and forth, and we can view that here in the computer. And we then also have remote access. Now, if I try and open this door here, you'll see it's locked. But if I go to the computer and unlock the door here, that's going to unlock the door, and now I can open it. And we can also have different color palettes for our computers, and this doesn't require you to go in and manually change the UI for the canvases. This is all done automatically with scriptable objects, and you can also send messages via events. For example, this button right here is going to send the computer a new message, and if we go back out, go to email, you'll see we have an unread message, which is right here. Okay, so that is a look at computers. Now we also have security cameras. This is another new addition. And security cameras are objects which can pan back and forth like so in all sorts of ways. They can also track objects, as you can see this one here. This could be good for if the player wants to be spied on by a camera, you can have it track them. And like we mentioned before, we also have security cameras viewable on computers. So this can be really good for horror games where you might want the player to be locked in a room and observing the level around them. Now, next up, we have locks and keypads. These are going to be very useful for puzzle games where you might want to lock the player out of a certain thing until they have the correct code. And we have two types of locks. We have keypads and we have combination locks. So this one right here has the code 8327. So if I interact with it, we can go 8, 3, 2, and 7. So that's going to unlock it. We can then exit out and open this chest here. You can also have these interactable locks, not with the camera zoom system I just showed you, but just by looking at the locks and fiddling with them here as well. And then we have our keypads. Now, there are two types of keypads. There is one with a display, which allows us to enter in numbers like so. And if we enter the wrong code, it buzzes us out. And then this other one here, which has no display. And this can be good for something like a safe. So if we go over to the safe here, it's got a code of 1111. So we can go 1111, hit enter, and that's going to open the safe. And of course, you can hide all sorts of objects and items inside for the player to discover. Next up, we have our lockpicking. Now, there are two types of lockpicking featured in the toolkit. First of all, we have tension lockpicking, which is the sort of kind you would find in Skyrim. So if we interact with something that's locked, we can enter the lockpicking right here. And as you can see, if you've played Skyrim before, it's very similar to that. So we have to align the pick and we can turn the handle. And as you can see, we're not right there in the sweet spot. So let's move it around. And there we go. And then we can open the crate. Now, there are different difficulties you can assign as well. So for example, the expert one is going to have a much smaller sweet spot and much less resilience when it comes to the pick. So you can see the pick breaks fairly easily. So we've got to find that sweet spot. So yeah, it can be a bit tricky. So you can have a go at figuring out how to do that. But with the lock picking, we can also require an item to be picked up in order to attempt it. So for example here, I'm not able to open this crate, but if I pick up a lockpick and then interact with it, I now have a chance to unlock it. And there we go, I accidentally broke it. You can also use an item in order to unlock the chest, because you see here, I have my inventory, and if I pick up this right here, it's going to add the lockpicking kit to my inventory, which I can then interact with the chest and be able to unlock it like so. And like I mentioned, there are two types. So we also have pin lockpicking, which is something you'd see in the Elder Scrolls Online or some of the other Elder Scrolls games. And this is where you have the different pins that you can select, hold down. When it begins to wobble, you want to let go. And it may seem pretty easy, but with a more complex expert level one, you can see these pins really don't give you much time at all to lock them in. So you've got to be very quick with when you let go. And yeah, it's of course a bit tricky, but yeah, this behaves pretty much the same as the tension lockpicking, just a different form that you may prefer. We also have a main menu system. So this is a complete main menu. It's got play buttons, settings, where you can change the graphics and resolution and field of view, as well as the audio settings, and you can also change the controls. It's got a built-in credit screen, which you can of course edit, and then their respective buttons. Player stats are another thing. So if you don't really want to use items, which we'll go over in just a moment, you can instead use player stats, which are these little things at the top left corner, which keep track of certain values. So for example, you might want to have a puzzle game where the player picks up keys or coins or gems or stuff like that. And then you can use those stats in order to unlock things. So instead of requiring a key or a pick-upable, you can instead require a key stat, and it can open like so. We now also have compass bars, and a compass bar is something you'd see in many exploration and RPGs. Essentially, it is a bar at the top which shows the cardinal direction as well as different navigation icons. So you can see here we have these different icons that appear on the compass bar. And if I press Q, I can go ahead and create new ones, and you'll see how they dynamically get registered and appear on the compass bar. And we also have different compass bar designs. So we have this sort of antique one, and then we can have one that more closely resembles a game like Skyrim, okay? And to go over the compass bars that still use the same navigation system are the mini-maps. So we have mini-maps which can help you navigate around your scenes, and these are entirely customizable as well. The zoom level, the design, you can see they also work with the navigation markers, and if you were to add the compass bar in as well, they would both use the same system. And just like before, we can create new markers like so, and they appear dynamically on the minimap. So these can be really good for quests, for showing the player where to go, things they might need to pick up in the world, objectives, things like that. And now we move on to the inventories. So we have two types of inventories. The first one is the hotbar inventory, and this right here allows players to pick up items, as you can see here in the world, and they get added to the inventory down there. We can use the scroll wheel to equip these items. Now, some items may not be equipable, like the key, but things like the compass and the trophy are, and you can even place items that you pick up back down inside of the world if it is a pick-upable item, so we can pick that back up like so. And some items have interaction, so if we're holding the flashlight, we can press F to turn it on and off. Now, to go over this, we also have the inventory window, which is a window form of the inventory, so if I press Tab, I can open that up here, and we have all of my empty slots right here. So if I pick up some items, you'll see they now appear in the inventory with a little description when I hover over them on the right-hand side. And some items you can also set up to be inspectable. So for example, in a puzzle game or an exploration sort of game, you might want the player to inspect the items in the inventory. So I can click on the trophy, and that is going to inspect it here. So yeah, that is a look at the inventory system in the Exploration Toolkit. And then one more thing the toolkit has to offer is a complete escape room demo game. Okay, this is a fun little puzzle game that hopefully you can attempt and try and complete. I'm not going to go over exactly how it works, but you can probably give it a go and see what you can do when you put a bunch of these different systems together. And this requires zero coding whatsoever. This was done using just the drag and drop components the toolkit has to offer.